Hey everybody, it's Ron and Ellie back for another edition of Ask Ron. First up this week is good old Marianne Nunez from California. She's got 3 questions for you this week, Ron, and a little bit of backstory for her first one. She says about a recent question where she asked you about a real estate broker. The real estate broker that she knows has been in the business for 20 years and knows all the disclosures and agreements to add to your agreements to comply with state law. She says he's easy to work with, and the guy said she could use him for lease option deals, axe deals, etc. And if they needed an attorney, he has a good one in the office that he could use. So she wanted to know if you recommend using a real estate broker or continue looking just for a real estate attorney.
Well, Marianne, I don't know what it is you want your real estate broker to do for you. He can't close your transactions for you. He's not an attorney. He'd be practicing law without a license. I have no problem with you using the real estate attorney that is in his office. I want you to use the attorney that is the easiest to work with. Sounds like he certainly is. They know the details. So again, your broker can't do for you what your attorney can do. You still need an attorney to close the transactions.
Okay. Her second question says, does a tenant buyer in a lease option have the right to sell the property, and if so, where does it state that on which agreement?
Well, anytime you have an option to buy, that gives you the right to resell it, same as you do when you put it under contract. So your tenant buyer has the right to resell it as long as he complies with the terms of the lease option you gave him. And actually in this case, the option is what gives him the right, not the lease. Yeah, he can resell it, same as you did to him.
Her third question says, do I complete a tenant screening for every adult that will be living in the property, or just the people signing the lease option agreement?
Well, I'm a little lost on that one because I can't imagine you having adults living in the property that aren't signing the lease option agreement. So the answer is all principals you need to screen, and if you find out there are other adults living in the property, why not screen them as well? Doesn't hurt. Better get some assistance on that one, because first you got to ask yourself, how many adults do you want living in your single family house? Usually it's only 2. Or maybe there's a relative, a dad or a mom or something living with them. In that case, I wouldn't worry about it. I'd just screen the husband and the wife. But if there's something beyond that, like you got 2 families living in the house, I probably wouldn't lease to them to begin with. But use your own judgment on that, Marianne.
Okay, next up is Rebecca Negrete from Virginia.
Hey, Rebecca.
She asks, which contracts do we use for a lease purchase buyer?
The one with the table of contents, it's on your Gold Club site. It's down near the bottom. If you see the table of contents, that's the one. Remember, make sure your attorney checks that before you use it the first time.
Okay, next up is Ed Skarupa from Florida. He says, my partner and I are planning to sell a lease option property in Florida in the near future. We have received $7,500 in lease option funds on a $250,000 property. Those funds were deposited in our equity trust IRA accounts 2 years ago.
Okay.
The tenant buyer is telling me that the mortgage company they may go with requires the funds to be placed in a separate escrow account for it to be considered part of their deposit for home purchase. They plan to go FHA. I have a good record showing copies of their cashier checks. Do you think that would be sufficient?
Yes, you just need to get a hold of somebody in that bank that knows what the heck they're talking about. I think they got you confused with a realtor, which means it would have to be in a separate escrow account. All they need is proof that you actually received the money, and that won't be hard for you to get from your IRA company. So if you're having, you should probably have a conversation directly with the buyer's loan processor and just let them tell you what you need to do to resolve it. That'll fix that.
Okay, next up is Michael Hellman from California. His question says, in a simultaneous closing, I want to take title as my LLC in a land trust. During the time I hold title, should I take title as my LLC in a land trust?
Michael, you take title in a land trust. You need a trustee and you need a beneficial interest. You left out the other part of the question, and that is where the money is going to come from and go to. If the money is coming from and are going to your LLC, then it cannot be the trustee, because it's receiving the money. It should be the beneficial interest. So you take title in a land trust. If you want your LLC to own it, so be it, to make sure the trustee is not the entity that the trustee and the beneficiary have to be different. That's all you need to keep in mind. So whoever's receiving the money is the beneficial interest. Any entity can be the trustee. I hope that answered your question. The title is actually deeded to a warranty deed to trustee or a grant deed to trustee in California. The ownership of that trust is entirely up to you. Again, just make sure they're different.
Okay, last up this week is a question from Cecilia Lance in California.
Okay, Cecilia.
It's a follow-up to the entity structuring lesson video we did a few weeks ago.
Okay.
She asks, it's my understanding that we do not take title with sandwich lease options.
Correct. You do not.
Does acquiring in land trusts and keeper LLCs apply to lease options?
No. A lease, you have to have some kind of a name on the top of the lease option, and we use an LLC for that. There is no land trust. It doesn't exist until the property is deeded into it. So if you're doing a lease purchase, then you use an LLC's name. Any agreement that I have will allow you to assign that purchase, if you actually do take title to it, to whatever entity you want. So you start with an LLC as the optionee, and then if you actually do take title to it later, you would buy it in a land trust. Generally, however, you don't take title on a lease purchase. When your buyer cashes out, usually the deed will go directly from your seller to your buyer. If you're in the middle, let it go through a land trust. If you're not, it's irrelevant.
All right, that's all the questions we got for you this week.
Okay. Guys, you better get signed up for this convention. I know you're getting tired of hearing about it, but it is getting very, very close. And I think the hotel is already full. You might want to check as soon as you get your registration. Call the hotel immediately, because if they're not full, they're darn close to it. I was just down in Orlando this past weekend. Beautiful, beautiful hotel I dropped in. So get signed up for the convention. If you do it now, you still got a discount possibility. Plus, I got a really kick butt bonus for you if you do it by the end of this week. I want you to get on the phone right now, right this minute. You know, you're probably reading this on a Friday, so I'm going to give you until the Saturday at noon. I hope we're open Saturday in the morning, to get on the phone at 800-567-6128, and I'm going to give you a $1,000 bonus that you're going to love, in addition to the $400 worth of discounts that we still have available, which are going to go away here in the next couple of weeks. So come join us. We're growing fast. I mean, we're registering folks right and left, so we're going to have a rather large event. See you next week.